Okay, welcome again, everyone. Thank you so much for joining. This is Aparo's Nonprofit Bites and Insights. These are our free webinar series that we have tailored specifically for nonprofit professionals like yourselves. Today, we got a hot topic. Is Google Ad Grant right for your nonprofit? We have Faggy Gilder with us from Gilder Consulting Group leading this conversation. Before I turn it over to her, let me go over a few housekeeping items. So this session is being recorded. It will be uploaded to our YouTube channel like we typically do with our webinars, as well as our website. But those of you who are attending live today, you will receive a follow-up email from me. It'll include the direct link to the recording, as well as the slide deck and other resources we might talk about today. Q&A chat box are available for you to use, so feel free to drop in your questions, comments at any time, in either format, whatever you're comfortable with. We will be monitoring both. Really quickly, I know some of you are new to Aparo, so welcome if this is your first webinar. So a little bit about Aparo for those who are unfamiliar with this. We are a nonprofit ourselves. We are based in Charlotte, North Carolina, and we help other nonprofits with any of their technology needs, challenges, barriers, anything around that, you name it, we are here to help support them. So the best way to check us out, if you do want to learn more about what we do and maybe even ask questions to us, go to our website at aparo.org. If you go specifically /nonprofits, there'll be more detailed information as well as opportunities to submit a service request if you'd like. And if you haven't already, please consider subscribing to our email list. We update that weekly with upcoming programs, so it's a great spot to just stay updated on what we are doing. And that is it for me. I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing and turn it over to why you're really here. Iggy, it is all yours.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm going to share my slides. All right. Hi, welcome. Thank you for coming. Today we're going to discuss, is the Google Ad Grant right for your nonprofit? So we're going to learn a little bit about what it is, what it isn't, and whether it's the right fit for you. Here's a little about me. I've been in nonprofit comms for more than 15 years. I spent more than 10 years in-house. And for a little more than 3 years now, I've been running my own business, helping organizations like yours get the most out of their marketing with the least amount of effort because you don't have the time. So who this is for? This webinar is for people who, if you're researching, you haven't applied, you're not sure it's worth it, you have it, and you're not getting results. So that is actually most of you. So you're in the right place. I know the Google Ad Grant can feel intimidating at first because it is kind of technical, but you're all here in the right place. And most of you haven't applied or haven't activated the grant. So let's talk a little bit about it. So here are a few things you told us you're worried about. You don't know where to start. You don't know if it's worth the time. You don't know if you're qualified. You set it up or someone set it up and you don't even know if it's running. So I see a lot of these things. For example, if someone at your organization who's no longer there opened it, I've definitely seen well, there's a mess back there. We haven't looked in a while. Here's what we're going to cover today. What the Google Ad Grant is, why they offer this program, which nonprofits get the most out of it, the campaign types that deliver results, how to start your first campaign, and more campaign ideas you can steal. So, what is the Ad Grant? The Ad Grant is one of a suite of tools offered by Google for nonprofits. When you apply for Google for Nonprofits, google.com/nonprofits, and you get a suite of benefits, including a free Google Workspace, some YouTube bonuses that usually are on paid channels, and a few other things depending on your country. In the US, we have access, I believe, to everything. And one of the perks of being admitted to the Google for Nonprofits program is access to a Google Ad Grant account. You are issued one that you can activate. So After you get Google for Nonprofits, if you're eligible, then you can apply to activate the Google Ad Grant account. It's important to note, don't open an ad account hoping to retroactively attach it to your nonprofit. You need to wait for Google to issue it to you. That's because this is an account that runs without any billing information input. If you end up running paid ads one day, you do that in a separate account and you get essentially a credit of up to $329 a day, which comes out to about $10,000 a month. That's where the number comes from. You can't spend $10,000 in a day. You can spend up to 329 per day. It's in kind, use it or lose it. It doesn't roll over. It's limited to ads that appear in search. And if you're using certain extensions, it can also appear in maps. But this means you're not in the display network. So there's no search banners, for example. This is heavily text-based. So if you don't have it yet, the application is actually really easy. If your nonprofit is already using a Google Workspace, you can retroactively, I believe, get that attached to your account for free, but you should be using a Google Workspace for free. And if you're not, you need to go to google.com/nonprofits and you click Get Started. You use an organization's email. So at and then your organization URL. Don't apply with a Gmail. Don't apply with your personal Gmail. You can have a Google account that isn't attached to Gmail. This is where some of the confusion comes in. So it's really important to apply with your organization's email, which probably means you're setting up a Google account for your organization email. You need to have your EIN, your legal organization name, some basic documentation like your mission statement. Most requests take 3 to 5 days. Sometimes there's a really long backlog. It could take up to 2 weeks for them to check your application. You're going to want to keep an eye on your inbox for emails from Google or from Goodstack. Goodstack is Google's current verifying partner, which means they might ask you for follow-up information, or they might ask you to go to their portal to submit something. That's real. Make sure it's from @mail.goodstack.org. If you miss that email, you might just be wondering why you're pending, and it might be because they're waiting for something from you. How to figure out if you have an existing account. So, if, for example, someone told you they think your nonprofit has an account, you go to google.com/nonprofits and you sign in with the Google account you believe is associated with your nonprofit account. So you could try old employee emails, generic emails that are info at or hello. Ask someone what they think the email is under. And then look for it in your available products. So once you're logged in, you'll see access to your suite of products here. And the second one is Google Ad Grants. So you'll see your status, you'll see if you're approved or if you haven't activated it yet. You'll see your customer ID number, and there'll be a link to sign into your Google Ad Grant account. You can sign in from ads.google.com. This is just to make sure you're in the correct account. I have seen nonprofits use the wrong account. Make sure when you're in an account, it's the one that's linked here. Or if you go from ads.google.com, make sure you're looking at the one with the right number. Here are some common issues. You don't have an account, but someone said you did. So I meet nonprofits that think they have an account. Someone said they have an account. Maybe they're using the Google Workspace, but that doesn't mean you have Google for Nonprofits. So it's possible your organization doesn't actually have it. It's possible you missed a step. So if someone applied but didn't monitor their email, didn't activate the account, didn't acknowledge the receipt of anything, then it could be in limbo. And there's a form that can help you with that. It could be pending approval. So when you sign into Google for Nonprofits, like I showed you in the last slide, if you have it, it says approved. It might say pending. You might need to submit more documentation, or you might be signing into the wrong Google account. So at nonprofits, many of whom have a significant amount of turnover, sometimes we lose track of what email has it. So how is this free? Why is this free? Why is Google doing it? A lot of it is speculation. However, general knowledge is that, first of all, Google wants to surface good results for every search, whether it's paid or not. You can bid really high in a paid account, but if your ad is not a quality search result for what someone intends to find, Google's still not going to surface it because that is their key service. So you're more likely to show, they want nonprofits to have ads because you're going to show up for things that nothing paid would show up for. Sorry. So they want you to be part of these responses when people are searching for the things you offer. You're also less likely in a Google Ad Grants account to sign up for super competitive, high cost keywords. So you can try for donate to save dogs, right? You donate to cure cancer, but you're probably not going to get those. I mean, it can't hurt, but you're probably not going to get those. So sometimes I see accounts that have no impressions because all the campaigns running are too generic. I've heard that some people call it a secondary bidding cycle. I've also heard that's not quite right. However, it's good to keep in mind that you need to be more creative and more persistent. And your incentives with a Google Ad Grant account are different than a normal one. Until your account is spending as much money as you can get it to, you don't really care what it costs per click. And that's not true for a normal ad account. So you really try to be creative here. Your account has stricter rules than a normal paid account. So the ad grant has some rules that normal accounts don't have because if they're giving it to you for free, they're going to have higher standards. So why this matters for you, you can get real visibility, but you need to be high quality and they have higher standards than a paid ad. You really need to think about what you uniquely offer people when you're running ads. So, is your organization eligible for Google for Nonprofits? You need in the US a 501c3 status. You cannot be fiscally sponsored. You need your own tax exempt status. So, further, hospitals, schools, and government entities generally are also disqualified. So, if you're a .gov, schools, there's Google for Education, which is a separate program, different set of perks. Um, and hospitals, yeah, medical stuff is tricky with this. A valid SSL certificate, which basically means your website starts with HTTPS. That means your website is secure. And that you have Google Analytics or Tag Manager or something tracking conversions. Most nonprofits have Google Analytics plugged into their website. If you don't, it's fairly simple to do. Okay, now, should you bother? Should you bother investing time, money into any of this? If you're eligible and have a website that's ready. If people search for what you offer, which is called search volume, if you offer services to a larger catchment area, so you can run it in your town, I don't know how much time it's worth investing. That is, you need to dig a little deeper. If you're a state, a region, or countrywide, or if you have anything that affects a larger area, you're a better candidate. You want more people to find your services or programs or events. You have someone on staff who can keep an eye on this. It doesn't have to be time intensive, but once it's set up, you check on it at least once a month. How do you know if you need ads right now? So your audience doesn't know you exist, or your audience doesn't understand what you do. You're eligible for the grant. And as I said before, you have someone who can keep an eye on it. So these top 2 points are really important. If you often meet people who should know you exist but don't, if you often encounter common misconceptions with what you do, those are both signs that the ads are probably worth a little more time and effort. So, just very quickly, search ads are based on search intent. You're going to show up on google.com's search. Search intent is understanding what the user intends to find when they run a search. That's what makes ads powerful in general, because when you type in volunteer opportunities near me, you want to make that ad as targeted to that person's query as possible. And you want the landing page to be a volunteer opportunity near them, which means the location has to be right. You need to target keywords that are correct. But most of all, you need to understand what someone wants to find. So this isn't rocket science, but you need to get into the user mindset when you're writing your ads. What do they intend to find with the search, and am I giving it to them? So here are some other good reasons to run Google Ad Grant ads. So to get in front of people who need your help, to build awareness among potential supporters, recruit volunteers or in-kind donations, to share resources, educate the public, and to protect your brand. So all of these are good reasons to run ads. I will say that if you're only hoping to fundraise, that only works if you already have good brand awareness. It's not typically the best reason to do it. So it's worth running if you're already running ads, but don't make all your ads about fundraising because you're not really going to get anywhere. You want to build momentum with your ads and you want to attract people at the top of the funnel, the awareness stage. So when they're looking to donate a used backpack, when they're looking to volunteer on Martin Luther King Day, or you want to get in front of your clients. So, for example, if you work in a more taboo area, people are often going to Google instead of Reddit, right? So they will be looking for you. Some topic areas are more restricted than others. That's a topic for another day. But getting in front of people who need help is also a really good use of your grant. And it can be tied to revenue because if you get grants that want you to serve a certain number of people, ad grant can help you get there. So bad reasons to run ad grants or bad reasons to run ad grants entirely is to build vague awareness among the general public. Think about what you're promoting and to who. To raise desperately needed funds yesterday. You're not going to do it. It's not worth your time and effort. You need another route. Board said you should. I mean, not the best reason. And hope to set it and forget it. You won't get much out of it. It won't be worth your startup and you might get suspended. Okay. So let's say you've decided you're in. You want to use this. The grant is not a zero-sum game. If you qualify, you're in. So, is your website ready? Your website doesn't have to be anything fancy. It really has to serve your goals. It's clear. Who are you? What do you do? Who do you serve? How can I help? It's mobile friendly. You have multiple pages of content that give real answers to people's questions. You need to have a page that loads quickly. Now, this is tied to SEO because we have no attention span. So, Google, when they serve any result, part of what they consider high quality is if your website loads fast enough. That will get you sometimes. No excessive third party advertising. So, you shouldn't have Google AdSense plugged in all over your website. You probably don't, but it's worth mentioning. This is what the page speed insights page looks like when you get there. I'm showing you an example. You just need to pass, but you should check if your website passes before you take it a step further. Here are a few more rules, as we discussed. In a Google Ad Grant account, your standards are higher than a regular account. Your click-through rate needs to be 5%. You have a grace period when you first start running ads, so don't panic. But generally, over the course of a 60-day time window, account wide, you need to be above 5%, which is very doable. Your website you need to have consistent pages that go to your website. Everything needs to go to your URL. You can't send them to GoFundMe or Facebook. You need to target a certain place. You can't do everywhere. You need to log in periodically. If Google sends you something like a validation request, you have to answer them. So sometimes they'll ask for more documentation. Sometimes they have some random things that come up, and you need to pay attention to when they email you. Okay, so let's think about what success looks like given all that. You qualify, you have good use cases, and you're ready. Some real wins are attracting actual people. So people do something on your website. They watch a video, they sign up to get your emails, they give a donation. or they consume a resource, they download a guide. Those are all markers of success. They don't include spending the full grant. Many nonprofits don't. So I don't like to keep it as a marker of success. You could spend $3,000 a month and be getting a whole lot of value or getting a flood of random clicks because you're just going to have people bounce away and that's going to hurt your ads. It's going to hurt your brand. So let's start with your first campaign. If you'd like, you can follow along or Yenting, should I take a beat here if there are any questions?
I don't see any questions yet.
Okay, no
I think
problem.
you're good to go.
So if you'd like, if you have an account, you can open it. If not, you can come back to these slides. You're going to get them after this webinar. To open a campaign, this is what it looks like when you open your AdGrant account. So we're going to assume it's set up. You have it, you've activated it. You click campaigns and you click on the plus button. So the first campaign we're going to build is for your brand. This is what I always do with new accounts, and it's recommended by a lot of people for a number of reasons. First of all, it's not wasted spend because in the beginning, you're not spending out. Most nonprofits don't usually spend out. You target your name, your nicknames, misspellings, acronyms. You're not supposed to use a ton of single keywords, but for brand names, you can. It drives low cost, high relevance clicks. So it's not going to cost you much per click to direct people, for example, to your homepage when they're looking for you. So that helps you keep your account wide average in the safe zone. It gives you control over your brand. So you get to control instead of organic search results serving the page that it thinks is most relevant to someone's search, you get more control over what appears when they search, which is really a huge benefit. It's quick setup. You know what the keywords are. You know what people call you. You know where you're functioning. You know your catchment area, and it's ideal for learning and early wins. So it's harder to mess up. It's a safer place to start. It's a really good way to warm up your account and get going. So when you click that new campaign plus button, you're going to choose new campaign. Now, to take a step back, I assumed that you had this account already when I said we're starting with your first ad. However, to take a step back, if you open an account after this webinar, do not choose Smart Campaigns, choose Classic Mode. Google Ad Grants dashboards are really retrofit from the paid accounts dashboards. So smart campaigns are going to do things that might even violate the grant rules. You really need more control. So go classic mode. So this view is in the classic mode. When you open a new campaign, you need to choose campaign, create a campaign without guidance because we need to stick to the rules. You're going to choose search for this. You do also have access to Performance Max, also a topic for another day. Keep all the conversion goals selected. They're going to ask you. So you're going to put in your website and you're going to choose to check for website visits. So here you're choosing your conversion goals. Just choose all the ones your account has and then put in the website you're running ads to. And then you name it. So name it your organization name and then your core use for that. The reason why naming conventions are important because the more campaigns and ads you have, the harder it is going to be to keep track. Next, you're going to target location. Notice that networks are not clicked off. You can't do the search partner network. You can't do the display network. So we need to keep those clicked off. And you need to set a location. You cannot stay at all countries and territories. So you choose US and Canada, or enter another location. When you click enter another location, you'll see a search window. And you can search for states, cities, DMA regions. I think you can even do congressional districts, but then you might run into deeper rules. I wouldn't recommend it. So, and then next, after location, you get to set your budget. I like to send them to $329 a day and choose maximize conversions. So in a Google Ad Grant account, one of the rules is you have to do a conversion-based strategy. It's best practice, even though there are other options available. Maximize conversion is the simplest conversion-based strategy. Yes, I want you to do $329 a day. For every campaign I do, I set at least $329 a day, unless I'm trying to throttle it. And yes, it adds up to more than $10,000 a month if you do that. However, unlike the old days, Google Ad Grant accounts now auto cap, which means it's not on you to set the budget limits. And now the money is really just helping the machine learn to spend. So we want to get those ad numbers higher, and we want to tell the machine, like, spend more money because you need to be creative. You're not getting the top space, and you need it to be more aggressive to actually get anywhere. So here is a typical campaign structure for a basic search ad. Think of ad groups as your folders, and in each folder, you're going to have keywords and ads. So your first campaign, for example, you're going to now start an ad group and call it brand terms, for example. Important note, there's some outdated documentation from Google, but I have it confirmed that you should and you can only have one ad per ad group. It used to be you needed two. Now ads let you put in more headlines, and then I think it's up to 15, and then the machine will learn by rotating through things. So by having multiple ads, you're hurting the machine learning. Keep your keyword clusters tight and do one ad per ad group. So this is what it looks like. This is a basic account structure. You have your ad account, you have your campaign clusters, and in each campaign, there are ad groups. And connected to each ad groups in that folder are your keywords, all usually around a specific theme or topic, and your ad. Your ad incorporates words from the keywords so people know what they're searching for. So, for example, you have a campaign that sends people to your homepage, and you have an ad group for your brand name. You might have another ad group for your subject matter, for example. So if you're a food security organization, you might have, food security as your brand name, and you might have local food pantry as one of your ad groups. You want to keep your keywords in the same folder because then you can reflect what people are searching for. And that shows the user you understand their intent, and that makes them more likely to click. So, for example, if you have your ad group for local food pantry and you have keywords that are in a cluster like food pantry, local food pantry, New York City, and then in your headlines, you're going to write things like food pantry, New York City, food pantry near me. That is a highly targeted ad. So it's important to keep these clusters small and not too general. So, for example, now we're using your brand also as an example. So here are ad group keywords for a brand name. Let's say your nonprofit is Save Kittens. Save Kittens America, Save Kittens Portland, wherever it is you're located, your variations of your organization's exact name. Common variations people might search for: Save Kittens Shelter. Let's say people often confuse you for a shelter. Save Kittens Austin, if that's where you're based, for example. You want to do misspellings and old names. So let's say you used to be Kittens Need You, or Kittens or Pups, or I'm giving a ridiculous example. But if you've rebranded, this is a great thing to do. And you can have a headline that says, used to be X, now Y, or common misspellings. Common misspellings are great things to target because you might not come to the top of the search result otherwise. Here's how you write your ad. I always think this is the fun part. Try to fill in all available spots. There's 14 headlines, 4 descriptions, and I want you to fill them all in. They're all going to be close variants of each other, and that's okay. Only 2 or 3 are going to show up at a time in an actual ad. So you're giving the machine a chance to learn and mix and match. There are strict character limits. So headlines are up to 30, descriptions are up to 90. So you could do your organization name, who you are, what you do, near me, what city you're in, what you're offering, what you're asking people to do, donate now, volunteer now, um, team building opportunities. And then you want to do something about your mission, your impact, a clear next step. So this takes some practice, but it definitely is very, very doable, especially if you use something like ChatGPT to help you whittle it down into the character count and think about all the different ways you can use different phrasing so that you could fill up all the headlines. For Google Ad Grant accounts, you have to use site link extensions, once again, because it's best practice. So most of the rules are going to help you anyways, but you have to. So in your campaign, you can go to assets. So here's campaigns. Let's say you built a campaign. While you're building the campaign, you can add site links, or you can go to assets after and click the plus button. And then you're going to choose, when you click the plus button, you see all the different kinds of extensions. All of them are available to you in the ad grant, which is great. Um, but site links are really the most important. The grant says you need at least two. You really need at least four for them to appear in your ads with any frequency. Now, remember, for your site links, the URL rule still applies. You need to have it at your URL. So officialpage.org or page.officialpage.org. It could be slash anything either. This also means you want to make liberal use of embedding. Let's say you have fundraising campaigns on other websites. Most of them can generate an embed code that you put onto your website page. You're going to need to do that to run ads to it. You're ready to publish. Okay. So you're almost done with your first campaign. Let's check that you have a location, you've set the budget, you have a conversion-based bidding strategy, you've put in your site links, and all links go to the same website. So click Create Campaign, and you're done. It'll probably be reviewed for a day or two, and then it'll start running. All right, now that we have a basic campaign set up, let's go through other campaign ideas that actually work. This part is to really help you brainstorm. So if you're wondering if this is worth your time and effort, here are a whole bunch of examples of real things I've done with nonprofits. These are not all my clients. So I'm not saying they're my clients, full disclaimer, but these are ideas that really work. Run a volunteer campaign. Volunteers, mentors, tutors, foster, anything where people can give their time. You want to advertise for that too, not only because you need them, also because even if your bottom line is fundraising, lots of volunteers donate, as you know. So again, top of funnel, where people meet you. This is an example from Volunteer Match, but there are tons of other ads out there. If you search volunteer near me, you'll get the ones running in your area and you'll see. Corporate team building. Team building is a good way to make money. And organizations or companies are often looking for team building experiences. So don't skip that if you offer it. Client-facing campaigns. As we discussed, it's really good for reaching people, especially when they're dealing with something private. So dress for success if you need a dress. This is, I actually see, I put a volunteer one here by accident. You can do emergency support, legal clinic. I've definitely done get legal help, after school tutoring. And these are the campaigns where the user intent is that they need help. So volunteer and client facing are sometimes two sides of the same coin, but you need to think about keywords. What does someone say when they need help? What does someone say when they want to help? Those are two different things. And it really is as simple as thinking about what people say to you sometimes. So once again, finding services. Here is a a shelter for women escaping domestic violence, or a support group. Support groups, there's a lot of search volume around support groups. So if you offer them, please run ads for them. Events and workshops. So you can run ads for events. If you're running a big community event, of course, your gala, if you're going to be at a block party, if you're running the block party, You need to be careful though, because you're not allowed to sell tickets unless you have a special account for selling tickets, which means stick to words like register, join, things like that. Don't use the word tickets. Local services, button get directions. So if you add a site link to Google Maps, then you can appear in Maps as we discussed. So I'm just going to mention that in case you're up to that part. But you're going to want to also target searches near me, either for recipients or volunteers or donors, right? People are always looking for things near me, and those are really good specific keywords. Resource libraries or guides, if part of your mission is to educate the public, or if you need to educate the public to reach your goals, you should develop resources and push them out. If you're already developing resources, you're halfway there. Look for people who are looking to learn what you teach. So we have examples here. For example, carbon credits. Education campaigns. So this is a paid campaign, but it's a pretty good example. You can run for your webinars, workshops, downloadable resources or guides, donation for specific impact. Instead of just saying donate, tell people what they're doing. In-kind donations. In-kind donations are another great top of funnel campaign. Here you can see in-kind donations for cameras or donate your old clothes. I've done backpacks, unused toiletries, homeless shelters, for example, run a lot of in-kind campaigns. Before back to school season, people are often looking to donate their backpacks. Um, at the end of the year or closer to the end of the year is also a good time in cold weather states to run things like in-kind donations for coat drives. Whatever seasonal is top of mind for people. If you have merch, you can promote it as long as it's on your website. Um, you can offer membership, advocacy information. You need to stay nonpartisan, and you should use clear, relatable language, but you can advocate for people's rights without taking a side. It's a fine line. Do this at your own discretion. Okay, so we're coming at 12:40, and here's what we covered so far. We covered what the grant is, why they offer this program, which nonprofits can get the most out of it, how to run your first search campaign, campaign ideas to steal, and how I can support you going forward is that I have a Google Ad Grant membership program. I do the setup because I know that's the most complicated part, and then I teach you how to maintain it. Okay, so Yending, if you would like, I put a stop here, and I'd love to take some
We've got
questions.
Yeah, we've got quite a few great questions come through. So I'm going to start with the Q&A box and then jump over to the chat. So first question is, it's been a while since I've used Google Ad Grants and remember a lot of limitations on what we could do with the creative. For
Mhm.
example, we could do a video ad. What has changed over the years?
Good question. Part of what makes the platform confusing is that it was retrofit for Google Ad Grants. So you you can run video ads maybe through the YouTube program, but not through the Google Ad Grant program. I believe if you add the extension, it doesn't run. So sometimes there are just things there, but they're not actually usable. But images, site link extension, one of them is images. Use those. Those will sometimes show up. That's different than a display ad. Um, and there are a lot of limitations. One way that helps is some of the limitations apply only when you narrow your audience because Google calls it personalized advertising. And the minute something is called personalized advertising, they're trying to protect their consumer from being targeted at vulnerable times in their life, for example. So, with medical information, religious organizations, there's a few buckets, and those are more tightly regulated. So, what you can do is you can make sure you narrow the audience only by location, and then you'll see that there'll be a check and it'll say it's running, that you're approved. And then in parentheses, it'll say what restriction applies. Now, as long as you see the green check, it's running. What that means is if you were to personalize the ad, if you were to narrow the audience, then you would be disqualified. So if you're not sure, target by location and then really think about your keywords to get the signals right. What are people signaling with their searches? So,
Great. Along with the search, the question is around ChatGPT. So with more people using ChatGPT, how is search coming into play and how is this affecting Google Ad grants?
yeah, awesome question. A lot of people I know have been talking about that too. Um, First of all, as long as Google has this program, I am convinced it's going to be useful because a rising tide raises all ships, and Google needs ad money. That's how they run. Um, but it has been hurting SEO, and they're trying to work on it because without ads, they don't make any money. So, one thing is in your search campaigns, when you edit them or start now, there's an AI Max that you can click on. I was trying to avoid getting into too much detail, but I advise you click it on because I think it helps you appear in more AI search results.
Hmm.
Um, the other thing is the second kind of campaign that's available to you is called Performance Max. It's really great. It's not all that complicated to set up. I was just trying to keep things pretty basic. Those are also, both of those options use more machine learning and more AI integration. And beyond that, Google's working on it. AI is hurting SEO, but especially with the limits of the Google Ad Grant, I have plenty of clients spending out because millions of people are still searching every day.
Makes sense. Would a large city, 1.2 million, be big enough as a service area?
100%, 100%. So then if you're getting down to a city, then it comes down to how broad is your appeal. So, for example, I've run campaigns that spend a lot of money for food security, housing security, things that apply to a lot of people and probably have high search volume. Problem really becomes if you're super niche and in a small city.
Great. This question is around that cap you were talking, the auto cap. So Google with the cap, if we are under Google Ad grants, we won't be charged for overages.
So, in your Google Ad Grant account, it is issued to you through Google for Nonprofits. Now, as long as you're in the right account, you should never, ever, ever have to put in credit card information. If you put in credit card information, you're in the wrong account. It literally says there's nothing to see here and there's nothing to put in. So I have seen this before. You're in the wrong account if there's credit card information. That being
Good
said,
to
Google also, in a regular ad account, what happens is, let's say you save $5 a day. Google might spend $6 one day, $4 the next day. The same could happen in a Google Ad Grant account. They'll never charge you for it. So that's just the machine doing its work.
This question is around site links. So can these also include social media sites or only organizations' websites?
Only your website. Only your website. So if you want to do how to find us, you can have a landing page with, for example, a first name and email capture for your newsletter, and then find us on social and links to your social media or embed a social media feed. But what they're really trying to do is they're trying to avoid people setting up ads for other companies, right? Because you could see how that quickly would go pretty south.
I represent a social enterprise, which is a 501(c)(3). We sell things as part of our mission. Can ads sell things?
Yes, yes, you can. As long as it's on your website, um, you can most definitely sell things. I've done it with, for example, the Squarespace store, usually merch that is clearly fundraising for the organization. I definitely have added stores as a site link. That's a great one.
How do you feel about paying professionals to manage the Google grant? My nonprofit is spending a monthly fee to have our ads curated to maximize our Google grant? And I'm just curious about your thoughts on that.
Good question. Of course, I'm biased. However, I will say good professional who does it will qualify if it's worth the investment. Because if you're super niche and in a small city, there's only so much you're going to spend, and then it's not worth it. If the company you're using is getting a lot of value out of the grant, is watching the conversions, is making sure you stay compliant, is logging in every 2 or 3 weeks, then it really could be worth it for you if you have no one on staff who would do that. If you have someone tech savvy on staff and who has some bandwidth, I have a resource slide at the end, and there are courses that you can buy for them to take, for example. So now that it's set up, you could have someone on staff learn how to take it over. That is an alternative. You need to be realistic about your capacity and how much value you're getting out of it.
Okay. Assist Me provides medical mobility equipment to those in need. Is this going to be an issue on the healthcare side?
Good question. It could be. You're going to want to be careful not to narrow your audience. I believe you can run ads as long as you don't narrow your audience. Um, you can also apply for an exception for a lot of these strictly regulated buckets. Some organizations can apply to be a partner that they trust with that information. However, start with not narrowing your audience and not giving direct medical advice. So you really want to, I'm sure you already do this, you want to stay pretty general unless you're their care provider. But you can most certainly advertise, for example, donate this much to enable someone to get a device they need, or donate your gently used devices for someone in need. There's a lot of creative ways you can use it and just narrow the audience.
We allow people to purchase items via our Amazon wish list. Would this be a violation of the selling via ads? It's linked to our website.
No, I think you still need to take them to your website, and you should contextualize the button to your wish list. So here are things that you can buy to support our
Mm.
pantry, for example. Um, and then the button is there. And then your conversion would be if someone clicks, for example. That would be what you want to track.
If we use a masking URL, is that okay to use as our emails listed, or should we use the original URL?
Is that okay to use as the emails listed? Okay. I'm going to try to understand what that means. So you have to use the URL you applied with. There is a form to apply for a secondary URL if, let's say, you have a sub brand. That's like an thing you can do. If you mean a contact page with email addresses, they don't care what those email addresses are. Um, if you mean a company that lets you do something on your URL, but is their platform, as long as it's not a redirect. So what you can't do is have yourwebsite.org/redirect, and then it's to your URL, but where it's really taking people is GoFundMe. You can't do that.
So
But
to
if, let's say, you paid a company and it stays at .yoururl.org, right? And it's not a redirect, then I believe you can do that.
yes, so they clarified saying that it's the website URL, not the email. That's what they
Yeah,
meant. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. So if you're paying, if the where the user lands still is your URL, then I believe so.
So great questions coming through. Keep dropping them in. Um, we had someone ask if you can drop the link to your ad grant membership in the chat.
Yeah, yeah. So it'll be on the slides.
Yeah. And I will be sharing the follow-up email that will include the slide, and I'll be sure to put it in the body of the email as well. Those are all the questions so far.
Okay. Yeah, so there's a lot of really cool things you can do. There's a lot of edge cases, right? Like the forms I mentioned for finding your account or adding a URL. So I was keeping it simple, but there are more things you can do. Since we have a few more minutes, I'll also just mention if you're feeling adventurous, you can also set up a Performance Max campaign. Those are some of my favorites right now. And actually, what's great about it is you drop in your website URL and it auto creates a lot of for you. So it's pretty user friendly. So if you're feeling adventurous, you could give it a try. Well, thank you for coming. I hope this was helpful. I hope to see you in December. I'm doing one on AI for nonprofits.
Yep,
And
that's a great point. I will drop that link
yeah,
in the chat. Again, Peggy is coming back and
coming back.
we had a comment feedback about the flow and the clarity that you presented with. And so we're definitely excited to have you back. We do have one more question. Can we squeeze that
Sure,
in? Okay,
sure, yeah.
so this is talking about the redirect. Have some concern about the redirect. Our events and campaigns are managed through givebutter.com or pledge.to. They would be redirected to donate through those sites or register. Would this work?
So you want to use their embeds. Most fundraising platforms, I think GiveButter has this, where on the page you can look for the ways to share. One of the ways to share is going to be an embed code, and you need to put it on your website, which you can do. So people do this all the time. So you'll have a landing page on your website, which is actually better for you anyhow, because you can contextualize it, you can keep them in your area, but you can't send them to GiveButter, for example.
They said, I think those widgets that are the embed codes, we do use those.
Yeah, then you're good.
Okay, great. Thank
Yeah.
you.
And one of the conversions you can track is a form submit, varying degrees of success with external embeds, but I always like to track that. And in the slides, you'll have this, which is other resources. So a bunch of built-in tools from Google. And the course I mentioned, this is not mine, but this is a really good, well-trusted one if you have someone on staff you want to train. So that's it. Thank you for coming.
Hey, thank you so much, Peggy. What a wonderful presentation. I learned a lot. Again, so clear, so straightforward. You guys have steps, you have homework too. So wonderful. Thank you so much for being here with us today. And we are excited to see you next month for the
All right.
AI
See you next
marketers.
month.
Thank you,
Take care,
everyone.
everyone.
Bye.
Bye.